Kevin, a former classmate of mine, got married today. I was in the large ballroom of an opulent hotel for the reception. Then Kevin saw me and said something startling. "Hey, hello. Why is there a person with less knowledge here while I exclusively invited the highly educated today?" His disagreeable voice reverberated across the opulent wedding setting. Reluctantly, I accepted the invitation, but I didn't understand why Kevin felt the need to say that to me. Kevin has always denigrated me due to my lack of formal schooling. I usually don't mind, but this time I couldn't help myself. Kevin will fall to his knees when he fully understands who I am. James is my name. I'm 30 years old. I have lived a somewhat different life, which you might not have guessed from the me of today. My parents were just regular people when I was born. In comparison to those around us, I believe we led a reasonably comfortable existence because my dad owned a modest business. On their days off, despite their hectic work schedules, my parents would take me anywhere I wanted to go and let me do anything I wanted. Learning is essential in life. It never fails you. When I was younger, my father made me study a lot. I diligently studied as instructed by my father. Because of that, I was able to go into a private school that was integrated from elementary school through high school and a prominent elementary school. Studying has never let me down, as my father once said. Studying was fun for me since I learned more and felt like I was getting smarter the more I studied. I wanted to be a successful business owner like my dad eventually, so I kept studying. However, the good times were short-lived. My father's business started having problems around the time I started middle school. My mom began working many part-time jobs to assist out with the finances while Dad was struggling to make ends meet. Every time I got home from school, my parents were worn out. I intend to change schools and attend a public middle school. That ought to help our finances somewhat, doesn't it? My parents didn't agree when I recommended this to them. "James, you shouldn't be concerned about it." Dad strongly stated, "Going to a public school would be a waste for someone who can study like you," and he kept me enrolled in the pricey private school. But by the time I started high school, my father's firm could not be saved, and the debt only grew. Despite her best efforts, my mother was unable to sustain my father's firm. "We can't do this anymore," my mother sobbed as she instructed my father to shut down the company. All he could do was do what she said. A few days later, my father, with much regret, closed his company and became unemployed. My father, who had been a vigorous businessman, completely lost his vitality and fell into depression. My mother worked in his place to support our family, but all her earnings went to my private school tuition. From then on, my life changed completely. What was once normal for me, like eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and buying whatever I desired, became a struggle even for the next day's meals. Therefore, I immediately decided to drop out of high school and start working. At first, my parents were puzzled by my decision, but given the dire situation, they reluctantly agreed. And so, I dropped out of high school and started working at a major online retail company. Dropping out of high school was a sad decision for me, but I could still study on my own. Now I need to work for my family. With that mindset, I began my job. It was unimaginable for me, who had been a high school student until recently, to suddenly become a working adult. But my colleagues were kind to me, and we cooperated in our work. I gradually got used to this environment. My working seemed to help my parents somewhat, and I felt reassured that my decision was not wrong. Those days continued, and it had been 13 years since I entered the workforce. Time flies. Eventually, I was celebrating my 30th birthday. My colleagues said they would throw me a birthday party at a fancy restaurant, so I was walking towards that restaurant. It was a bit embarrassing, but also pleasing to be celebrated like this at 30. I was looking forward to seeing what kind of birthday party it would be. Then, I saw someone familiar walking towards me. I quickly looked down, trying not to be noticed, but he started staring intently at me. Oh no, I busted. "Hey, isn't that James?" The person who called out to me was Kevin, a former classmate of mine. The moment Kevin spoke to me, I instinctively stepped back. The reason I didn't want Kevin to notice me was because of the bitter memories from middle school. Kevin and I had been in the same elementary school. His father was the president of a major transportation company, and he lived a considerably wealthier life compared to our other classmates. His clothes were all designer brands, and the things he owned were much more expensive than what me or the other classmates had. Kevin always bragged about it to me and the others. I distanced myself from Kevin and rarely talked to him. But upon entering middle school, I ended up in the same class as him. Being in the same class, I couldn't avoid talking to him. Kevin often initiated conversations with me, but his talks were all about bragging. I got the top score at the tutoring center recently. The tests are just too easy. It's laughable. Our classmates praised Kevin for his boasting. "Hey James, why don't you go to tutoring?" "Oh, wait. You can't because you don't have the money, right?" Kevin laughed, looking at my face. The other classmates looked at me with cold eyes. Back then, my father's business was not doing well, and I couldn't even tell my parents that I wanted to go to tutoring. I ignored Kevin's words and left the scene. The incident happened a month later. That day was the posting of our first midterm exam results in middle school. I was surprised to see the ranking on the bulletin board. I was in first place overall. Kevin, watching from behind, yelled out to me, "James, you must have cheated, right? There's no way someone who doesn't attend a tutor could rank first. It's totally impossible." Like the world turning upside down, the other classmates seemed to believe Kevin, looking at me with scorn. Despite not having cheated, why was I accused of such a thing? I was seething with anger. I didn't cheat. That was all I could muster in response. After that, I was labeled as a cheater in middle school, pointed at with disdain. It was all because of Kevin's baseless accusations. But there were friends who believed in me, which helped me overcome the situation. However, after several more exams, I consistently ranked at the top of my grade, and the number of classmates who treated me as a cheater gradually decreased. Kevin didn't like that and started to pick on me every chance he got. Even after advancing to high school, when Kevin learned I had dropped out, he sneered at me. "Your dad's company went bankrupt, huh? That's what happens when an incompetent person becomes a president." I almost lunged at Kevin in anger. I was held back by a classmate just in time, but I couldn't forgive him for insulting my parents. Who on earth does he think he is? "So, Kevin, you must be a really important person." "Keep it up," I said sarcastically. But Kevin just smiled broadly, not catching the sarcasm. I left the school, passing Kevin by, thinking I would never see him again. Yet here we were, meeting in such a place. My luck couldn't get any worse. The cheerful mood I had earlier was gone. "You never changed, do you?" Still reeking of poverty, Kevin started talking to me with a mocking joy in his voice. Here we go again. I wasn't walking there just to listen to Kevin's snide remarks. "You haven't changed either," I said, keeping my pace toward my destination. Kevin kept following me. "Right, I'm always smart. I'd like to share some of my intelligence with you." Kevin said that with a laugh. Does he really think he's that smart? I laughed inside. "I wish you could, but I've got things to do, so I'll be going now." Hearing this, Kevin laughed even more. The future must be bleak for someone who dropped out of high school. Well, it's a world that has nothing to do with me. I ignored Kevin's words and kept walking. After high school, Kevin graduated from a prestigious university and now works for the large company his parents run. Or so I heard through the grapevine. But it was all thanks to his parents' connections, not his own abilities. I couldn't fathom why he felt the need to lord it over me. After saying his piece, Kevin didn't follow me any further. When I arrived at the restaurant, my colleagues were waiting for me. "The star of the show is finally here. James, congratulations. Ken said, and the rest of my colleagues welcomed me with applause. It's always nice to be celebrated, no matter how old you get. Thanks, everyone, for throwing such a great party for me despite your busy schedules. I expressed my heartfelt gratitude to everyone. They all smiled broadly. We'd do this anytime for you, James. They even gave me a present. I opened the package with childlike excitement and found a tie, so nice I wasn't sure if it suited me. I tentatively put the tie against my chest to show it. How does it look? Ken and the others cheered. James, it suits you perfectly. James, you always wear the same tie, so we went for something really stylish. Glad you like it. I scratched my head, feeling a bit embarrassed. I was overwhelmed that they had thought so much about me to buy such a gift. Thank you. I'll treasure it. Everyone looked happy to hear my words. After that, I enjoyed a delicious meal and said goodbye to my colleagues. Ken and I then headed towards the station. I'm really happy about the birthday party. Thanks a lot. It's only natural for a valuable coworker like you. Ken laughed. Ken and I started working at the company around the same time. Although he's 5 years older than me, we get along well and even go out for drinks together in our private time. He's always been supportive at work, always looking out for me, and I'm forever grateful to him. At that moment, I had completely forgotten about the unpleasant encounter with Kevin before the birthday party, immersed in the joyous afterglow of the celebration. But inevitably, a situation arose where I had to face Kevin again. About a week after my birthday, I was sitting at my desk, working as usual, when Ken came over. Could you deliver these documents to Rainbow Logistics? Rainbow Logistics is a company our firm does business with. Ken seemed rushed, as if it was urgent. Sure, I'll go now. Really? I'm swamped with end-of-month work. You're a lifesaver. Ken handed me the documents with a happy expression. I immediately took them and hurried off to Rainbow Logistics. After several train transfers, I arrived at the company and was overwhelmed by its size. Rainbow Logistics is one of the top companies in the logistics industry. I asked the receptionist to hand over the documents and was about to leave. Then, I heard a familiar voice behind me. I turned around. Standing there was none other than Kevin. What brings you to my company? I couldn't believe my ears. Rainbow Logistics, Kevin's father's company. I had completely forgotten about that. Oh, Rainbow Logistics is your father's company. I just came to deliver some documents, I said, unable to hide my surprise. Kevin looked a bit angry. I'm going to be the next president. It will no longer be my father's company. It will be mine. My mention of it being his father's company seemed to strike a nerve. Kevin became aggressive toward me. I don't know which company you work for, but any company that employs a high school dropout like you must be no good. Ha. The receptionist looked shocked by Kevin's loud voice. He had no regard for his surroundings, appearing childish and embarrassing. Maybe you're right, I said, about to leave Rainbow Logistics. But Kevin wasn't finished. He continued to raise his voice at me. Low-educated people like you are a burden to society. I'm amazed you can live so shamelessly. I couldn't do it, that's for sure. Your thick skin is astonishing. Kevin went on a tirade against me. His voice echoed through the entrance hall of Rainbow Logistics. Then, another voice came from behind him. Kevin, what are you yelling about? We can hear you from outside the company. How embarrassing. It was Kevin's father, Tom, the president, standing there. He wore an expensive suit and a luxury watch. Dad, this guy was a classmate of mine, but he's so arrogant despite being a high school dropout. I wasn't trying to be arrogant. I just wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. Tom looked at me intently. Why waste your voice on such an undereducated person? Don't raise your voice at someone like him. What if our other clients heard you? They'd be shocked. I was stunned. The idea that the president of a major corporation would use the term undereducated was unthinkable to me. You're right. Kevin scoffed. It's a waste of time dealing with someone like you. What was this guy talking about? He was the one picking a fight. It was almost laughably absurd. I couldn't pull back and retorted, I'd say the same to you. I'm busy too, so excuse me. I tried to leave the company once more, but again, Kevin raised his voice at me. What do you mean by that? Hey. I left without paying attention to Kevin. His voice continued to echo even as I walked away. When I returned to my own company, Ken immediately came up to me. You really saved me. Thanks. Also, this came for the company. Ken handed me an invitation. It was a wedding invitation for the son of a client's president, enclosed in a fancy envelope. My eyes widened in shock when I saw the name of the sender. It was Kevin. Seeing me speechless, Ken looked puzzled. Usually, I would attend as the company's representative, but I already have plans for that day. Rainbow Logistics is an important client, so we can't just skip the wedding, right? It's not uncommon for us to receive wedding invitations from clients. Normally, Ken handled our dealings with Rainbow Logistics, but if he had other commitments, there was no helping it. I'll attend in your place, I said resignedly. A wedding. I wasn't fond of places with large crowds because I was extremely shy. And it was Kevin's wedding, no less, someone I really disliked. He was sure to throw snide comments my way again, but I hadn't done anything to deserve such treatment from him. I resolved to attend the event with dignity. Time passed, and the day of the wedding arrived. I changed into a suit, wore the fancy tie given to me by my colleagues, and got into a taxi. The wedding venue was at a luxurious hotel. Arriving at the high-end hotel, I saw a line of luxury cars. Guests attending Kevin's wedding reception stepped out of them. Inside the reception hall, various company presidents and executives gathered for the wedding of the heir to a major corporation. The venue was filled with more than 500 people. I sat at a table marked with my company's name, trying not to stand out, and began drinking alone. After a while, the lights dimmed for the bride and groom's entrance. A beautiful woman in a stunning white dress and Kevin in a tuxedo entered arm in arm. Kevin was blushing but composed. When they took their seats, a toast was made, and the hall burst into lively chatter. Guests flocked to the couple to offer their congratulations. I'll just give my greetings and leave quickly, I thought. As I headed to greet them, the bride, Ava, had left her seat to go to the restroom. Kevin spotted me immediately and burst into laughter. Hey, I'd only invited the highly educated today, so why is a low achiever here? Both the bride, Ava, and I are high achievers. At Kevin's words, the guests at the reception all turned to look at me, some even laughing. I hadn't wanted to attend Kevin's wedding in the first place. I couldn't understand why I had to be subjected to such comments from him, even though I came reluctantly. I'm just here to represent my company and offer congratulations. Congratulations on your marriage. I managed to control my anger and offered Kevin my congratulations, but Kevin laughed even harder. You? Representing your company. Which company sends a high school dropout as their representative? Don't you think it's disrespectful to me? My anger became increasingly difficult to control. Then Tom's voice came from behind me. Kevin, are you arguing again? Stop it at such a festive occasion. Don't bother with someone so undereducated. So, Tom thinks the same way as Kevin. I made up my mind at that moment. Just as I was about to speak, Ava returned from the restroom and looked surprised to see me. Aren't you? Kevin, puzzled by Ava's reaction, said, What? You know this guy. Such an underachiever is just trash in society, right, Ava? Hearing Kevin's words, Ava desperately tried to convey something to him, visibly shaken. Kevin, this man is. But Ava was too panicked to articulate her thoughts properly. Then, a man approached me. He hadn't heard my exchange with Kevin and greeted me with a smile. You're the president of Orion Corporation, right? It's an honor to meet you. I've wanted to talk to you, so it's great to see you here. He handed me his business card, which bore the name Pegasus Logistics, a leading company in the industry. What? Both Kevin and Tom looked at me incredulously. Could we have a formal business meeting sometime? Lucas, the president, asked me politely. Yes, we've actually been looking for a new logistics company. I'd love to hear more, I said, smiling. Lucas beamed with joy. Ava, watching my interaction with Lucas, excitedly said, So you are the president of Orion. Indeed, I once interned at your company and had the chance to greet you. However, Kevin and Tom, still in disbelief, raised their voices at me. You're the president of Orion. Who would believe such nonsense? That's right. Orion is one of the top revenue-generating companies in the U.S. and a significant client of Rainbow Logistics. Enough with the jokes. Oh well, it seems this father and son will never believe me. I was indifferent, but Lucas raised his voice at the two. How can you be so rude? This gentleman is genuinely James, the president and director of Orion Corporation. He's famously shy and avoids public appearances, which is why you didn't know. Hearing Lucas's words, they finally seemed to accept that I was the president of Orion. James, the president of Orion. Impossible. Yes, I am indeed the president of Orion Corporation. I dropped out of high school and initially lived on part-time jobs. But as that wasn't enough to cover living expenses, I casually started an online shopping operation to supplement my income. I hoped it would just help a bit with my finances. Gradually, the online shop sales grew, and I seriously ventured into managing it. What helped me then was the mathematics I had studied from childhood. Education doesn't betray us. Indeed, my mathematical knowledge aided the management of my online shop. At first, I ran it alone, but soon, I needed more hands on deck. That's when I hired a few employees, including Ken, who became my right-hand man. 2 years after starting my business, my company became so renowned that it was hard to find someone who hadn't heard of it. 14 years after its establishment, we expanded our market internationally, boasting the highest sales among online retailers in the United States. My company partnered with several logistics firms to operate efficiently, with Rainbow Logistics being one of them. When my company was just starting, finding a logistics company willing to partner with us was a struggle. But now, they approach us with proposals for partnerships. Initially, we didn't have a deal with Rainbow Logistics, but Tom approached us to do business. I'm extremely shy and rarely appear in public, so only a few people know that I am the president. Tom probably never imagined that I, a high school dropout, would be the president of this company. An unusual atmosphere of fear pervaded the reception hall. I apologize for Kevin's rude behavior, Ava said to me, looking genuinely sorry. It almost felt as if she had done something wrong herself. Ava, you haven't done anything wrong. The one at fault here is Kevin. I said this, but Kevin just laughed, which I found incomprehensible. Then, Kevin said something surprising. I'm sorry for the harsh words, but it's the truth, right? Well, you've done well. We're friends, and this won't break our friendship, right? The room went silent. People looked as if they were wondering what he was talking about. I sighed deeply. Kevin, are you serious? If so, you're truly incompetent. Hearing my words, Tom quickly came up to apologize. As expected of the president, he probably could foresee what was going to happen next. James, I am terribly sorry for our disrespectful behavior. However, Kevin looked at his father as if he were an outsider. Tom immediately urged Kevin to apologize as well, but unbelievably, Kevin refused. Why should I apologize? James and I are friends. I was speechless at his delusion. Kevin still says such things even now. He needs a reality check. Kevin, unfortunately, I have never once considered you a friend. Friendship means treating each other with respect, not looking down on one another, and supporting each other through tough times. Have you ever done that for me? Kevin, slightly shaken, retorted, "Oh, I was young, and maybe didn't realize it, but now I consider you a friend." I was astonished. Tom continued to apologize profusely. "We're not friends or anything," I said. I took a deep breath and then called Ken. "Hey, sir, sorry to bother you, but can we stop all dealings with Rainbow Logistics and switch everything to Pegasus Logistics?" Ken expressed surprise over the phone, but agreed to follow my instructions. Lucas, overhearing the conversation, looked surprised yet pleased. After hanging up, all eyes turned to me. "Sorry, but my company will cease all dealings with Rainbow Logistics from this moment." "What?" Kevin trembled, his complexion turning pale. Ava covered her mouth, unable to hide her shock. "Our company relies heavily on business with Orion. If we lose your contract, our company will collapse." "How could you be so heartless? Do you even have a conscience?" Kevin was endlessly self-centered. I wanted nothing more to do with him. "Kevin, think about what you've done to me. Haven't you done far worse? This is karma." The wedding guests looked on in astonishment, while Kevin found no words to retort and fell silent. Finally, I had something to say to Ava. "Ava, I'm sorry for ruining your wedding. I will properly apologize later." Hearing my words, Ava stood up. "Your words, James, have opened my eyes. I agreed to this marriage because my parents said so, but I will not marry Kevin. Looking down on people is what the worst kind of person does." Then Ava turned to Kevin. "That's why. Goodbye. Everyone, please feel free to leave." The attendees started leaving all at once. "Ava, please come back. I beg you." Kevin collapsed to his knees, crying pathetically. I left the venue along with the other guests. Glancing at Kevin, I heard through the grapevine that the wedding was called off after I left. Later, Tom came to apologize at my company, but I completely ignored him and never met with him afterward. Rainbow Logistics, having lost its major client, my company, went into the red, forcing significant layoffs, and Tom struggled to turn things around. Kevin, who refused to apologize to me at the wedding reception, had a huge argument with Tom and was eventually disowned. His whereabouts are now unknown. He's likely living quietly somewhere, doing odd jobs. It was a fitting outcome for Kevin, who judged people only by their academic credentials. As for Ava, after calling off the marriage, she went through some unstable days, but with my support, she now works happily at my company. "Since I'm hungry today, I'll make your favorite hamburgers," Ava said to me with a smile. After her engagement with Kevin was broken off, I helped alleviate Ava's emotional distress by going out to eat with her. Gradually, I found myself drawn to Ava's charm. Ava seemed to feel the same way, and we naturally started dating. Wanting to be closer to her, I invited Ava to join my company. She is a kind-hearted woman who cares for others and doesn't judge people by their education or background. Such a wonderful woman was never suited for Kevin. While I'm not sure if Ava and I will marry, I want to cherish and nurture the happiness I have now. I'm determined to continue forging my own path to the fullest. I am Jordan. I was simply a regular guy in his 30s living in the city and working a 9-to-5 job. I work now at a factory in a remote part of rural Nebraska, far enough away that buses are rarely seen. Why am I using the past tense when I speak? Well, I was on the fast track to success and was working hard at a renowned office building in New York City until last month. Everyone thought I was going to be successful, and I was certain that I would hold an executive role eventually. But I had a competitor. Mike was his name, and we were always fighting for the highest paying position. Mike didn't view it the way I did, but I thought we could develop a good friendship based on a friendly rivalry. I was just something that he needed to get in the way of. He thus set me up. When it turned out to be a misunderstanding, he blamed me for a major error. I had betrayed the confidence I had once won. People started pulling away from me gradually, and the boss only gave Mike preference. I was sent to this remote Nebraskan facility before I knew it. Even though I have a decent job as manufacturing manager on paper, I'm still being demoted. To be honest, I was shocked. Transferred factory managers from the headquarters only bring a poor reputation with them. I am also unable to perform my job effectively because I lack factory work experience. I was branded as a troublesome supervisor who was moved due to problems at the corporate headquarters. I went home to my dwelling furnished by the firm with a troubled heart. Being a factory manager and living in corporate housing allows me to save more money, so the compensation isn't too awful. But I no longer feel fulfilled. Every day, I simply submit to the seasoned manufacturing workers and attempt to complete things on my own that I have never done before. To be honest, I've considered giving up, but doing so would indicate that Mike had defeated me. I'm holding to this job because I detest the thought in the worst way. Yet, I must have been quite exhausted since I discovered my front door was unlocked. Oh no, I should have locked it. Even if there is nothing of value for me to steal, I was nonetheless irresponsible. When I went inside, I should have been more cautious, but what I saw was unbelievable. A genuine surprise. And see, there were women's shoes just lying around carelessly. Not only that, but some women's clothing were haphazardly tossed over the washing machine that is located directly next to the entryway. She appeared to be about to insert them into the machine before being sidetracked. Stockings were arranged in the hallway, halfway between and past the washing machine, almost like signposts. As soon as I saw the women's clothing, I quickly looked up my apartment number. Did I book the incorrect room? But no, this is apartment 35, which is the one I rent. What on earth is happening? I entered confused and then let out a startled "whoa." A woman lay down in the bathroom area. I was unable to comprehend what was going on. I double-checked the unit number and saw nothing odd. I live in this apartment. Was the woman unconscious too? No, she appeared to be dozing off. In any case, why was a woman sleeping here? I can't just let someone tell a lie in this place, or I could be charged with anything. Though at first I was thinking, wait, what? That's when it dawned on me that her face was really pale. She appears to be in discomfort and is breathing heavily. When the writhing woman did not show signs of moving, I stepped closer to her with caution. It appears that she is in her early 20s. She looked familiar, so perhaps we work at the same factory. If you look closely, her face is pale, yet she seems like she's on fire. It's so hot that I touch her cheek. She appears to be rather ill and most likely has a fever. She most likely attempted to change, but passed out in the middle because fevers often make people feel disoriented. I've been there before. All of your energy is directed into resting when you have a fever. I recall merely washing my hands when I got home and then passing out on my bed. I gave her a gentle shake of my shoulder after covering her with my jacket. Hey, are you okay? I was fairly calm, considering the commotion of earlier. I think she looks very young now. I knew she was in her 20s because our plant doesn't employ teenagers, yet she looks so young that one could easily mistake her for a college student. I was more worried about her safety than anything else when I saw her like that, especially because she was unable to even realize that she was in the incorrect room. She had to be quite sick. I would have immediately phoned for an ambulance if she had been dressed. She eventually woke up after I called out to her multiple times. Our gazes locked, and she gave me a confused look. Why is the manager of the factory here? I'm in this room. Like thus, it feels a little strange to me. She began to slowly realize what was going on when I pointed it out. Oh my God, it's not her fault. I apologize for causing you inconvenience. How are you doing? I queried the woman, who was now identified as Mary, worriedly. You seem to have a fever. She gave the room number as 205. Probably from taking the wrong floor in the elevator, she entered my room, which I had neglected to lock because she was feeling lightheaded from the fever. Everyone in the apartment complex has the same layout, and Mary and I hardly ever leave anything in the corridor. Mary, exhausted, dozed off for a little while without noting the room's transformation. Mary appears to have entered my room 10 minutes or so before I returned. I had assumed she had fainted, but it turned out she was only having a nap. I really apologize. I'm shocked by myself. Should I call an ambulance? You appear to be really lost. No, not at all. I want to stop being a nuisance. Since it's only a cold, summoning an ambulance seems excessive. She made an attempt to stand, but her balance was shaky. Are you the only resident of the apartment building? In this state, I can't send you home alone at night. You don't have to if you don't want to, but maybe you should rest a bit. Even Mary sensed the danger, given her fragile state. She chose my room as a place to rest. It makes sense that waking up in someone else's room would be unsettling. My only intention is to assist her in de-stressing. I positioned my phone directly in front of her. I didn't snap any pictures or anything similar. You can look through the stored pictures if you're concerned. That seems much more suspicious. It's okay. I checked her temperature with a thermometer while awkwardly laughing. The temperature was 102 degrees Fahrenheit. A high fever is that. Maybe she should get some rest as soon as possible. She started to feel less dizzy and lucid, so I made the decision to take her home. But it's only 1 floor down, I added. Many thanks for it, she added. I'll come by to properly thank you another day, with grace before making her way back to her room. She appeared youthful to me. Well, anyone in their 20s would appear youthful to someone like me who is in their late 30s. I was concerned that she could be pushing herself too hard because it seemed like she was putting on a brave face. I had a really strong impression of her after that happened. Mary stopped by my flat a week later on my day off. As a gift, she brought a package of cookies. She said, I wanted to apologize for the trouble. Don't worry. There was an emergency. Do you feel better already? Yes, I appreciate that. It turned out to be a simple cold. She said, please take care of yourself too, and walked out. She was still healing from her illness, so it wasn't really suitable to encourage her to remain and talk. But things started to improve in my very bleak life after that. Mary always gave me a huge smile and a cheery greeting when she saw me at the factory. Hello, Jordan. How are you feeling right now? She said that I always seemed so busy and stressed out, so she had always been a little reluctant to talk to me. But it felt like she began to have more faith in me now. The rest of the staff started treating me differently because of Mary's approach. Particularly the more seasoned employees, they completely changed how they felt about me. There were not many people employed in this factory, which was a bit like a tiny industry in a rural location. The workers were almost like family as a result of this. I used to feel like there was an invisible wall separating me from the others, but then they started giving me coffee and the unfounded gossip about me ceased. We even started having light conversations, which shocked me because, to be honest, I wasn't doing that well at work. I chose to inquire about it with Joe, a seasoned employee. You did assist Mary, correct? However, Mary informed us that you are not who the rumors have you out to be. As the youngest employee at the factory, Mary was well liked by all, according to Joe. That explains why her remarks affected him so much. I apologize for earlier. Some guy from headquarters spread all these horrible rumors about you before you were posted here. We were suspicious of you because we believed there had to be some truth to them. It stunned me. It turns out that Mike, the guy who set me up, has been spreading stories even here. Although Joe wasn't familiar with Mike's name, he could tell by the description that it was him. With a sigh, I told Joe my side of the tale, detailing how Mike's tactics forced me off of my intended career path and into this situation. I was speaking when all of a sudden I heard someone speaking behind me. How come? That is really awful. I turned back and saw Mary with oil stains on her clothes. It seems that she had heard what we were saying. "Jordan, you ought to get even with that guy." "It's impossible. But you're surprisingly fierce. Ha ha. I'm merely a factory manager these days. Nobody pays attention to me." "Jordan is really slow to pick things up, isn't he?" made fun of Joe. I could not think of anything to say. The employees are aware that I lack the necessary training. It's true that even though I've been gradually picking up the nuances of my job, I've still been letting the team down. I could therefore talk to someone higher up, and they would listen. "Well, maybe," I remarked, teasingly. That someone in a position of authority would step in to help me is unimaginable. That's what I thought, anyhow. To my surprise, nevertheless, my prank came true. A few weeks after our chat, the company's CEO came up at the facility out of the blue. The CEO visiting a location this remote is extremely unusual. It usually only goes as high as the department head. That's why I was genuinely shocked. Was I really that bad of a screw to bring the CEO down here? I was completely devastated. But the moment the CEO got there, he apologized to Jordan. "You've received unfair treatment." He turned to face me. "How come?" I was astonished as well, I remarked. I paid attention to the CEO's remarks. It seems that someone had reported Mike's misconduct to him. After looking into it, I discovered that Mike had been stealing credit from other workers and purposefully undermining my performance reviews. Although I always believed Mike to be capable, it now appears that he was simply pilfering the successes of others. "Mike isn't allowed to work right now. We want to address your situation before we take any disciplinary action. Ideally, I would like to get you back to headquarters right away." I asked the CEO to hold on a moment since I feared he was going to try to move me back. "I would like to stay here, sir." "What?" "I'm only now beginning to learn the ropes and gain some traction here. Even Joe has told me that I've finally passed, so I guess I'm not perfect yet. All I had on my mind back at the corporate headquarters was moving up the corporate ladder. I used to believe that moving forward was the only way to demonstrate that one was appreciated, but there are other factors as well, such as the value of forming connections and receiving genuine recognition from coworkers. If I hadn't realized that I'd grown to like everyone at this remote factory and the surroundings, I doubt I would have had these kinds of emotions back at headquarters. I therefore wasn't prepared to go just yet. In addition, the head office no longer seemed all that tempting, especially in light of the fact that they were blind to Mike's duplicity. I'd wanted to live here, not hustle in the high-turnover environment of the head office. That is how I truly feel right now. Here, I'll give it my all. After I made my wish known to the CEO, the transfer was no longer on the table. "Keep up the good work," the CEO said as he left, but a question began to bother me. Mike's actions are forgivable, but to whom was he reported? Someone harboring ill will. Someone tapped on my shoulder as I was lost in thinking. Mary was the one. "Hello, and how are you, Jordan?" "All right, many thanks. What was the outcome? Has Mike, the person who set you up, received any justice?" I was surprised when Mary asked me that. I questioned how she found out about that. I must have shown my surprise on my face. Mary chuckled. "I told my dad that a bad employee at the headquarters moved you here." "Your father?" "Yes, the CEO who was here earlier is my dad." "What?" I was so taken aback that I had to shout. When Mary saw my response, she burst into laughter. "Oh my goodness, you were unaware of the CEO's daughter. Which implies that, well, you're in. However, you ought to be employed at the main office. What brings you to this factory?" I was completely perplexed. Mary went on to explain the circumstances. She detests computers in particular and is not excellent at administrative work. She was going to work at the factory of another company, which was unusual for a woman, and she loved fiddling with machines. Her father, the CEO, was adamantly against it, claiming that factories may be hazardous places with a high rate of accidents. Join our factory if you want to work with machines, he urged. That's how she got hired to work at this plant owned by the CEO's pal. Joe, that pal, is the one who always makes fun of me. It makes sense why she calls him so close, I reasoned. My father probably expected me to move out of this isolated area soon, but I settled in right away because I've always wanted to live in the country. You were kind to me when I had a fever and made adjustments so I wouldn't overexert myself, she said, laughing. You think about other employees' welfare as well, not just mine. Everyone claims it's easy to work here now because of you. I have conflicting feelings about this. Factories are prone to accidents and injuries. In the event of an incident, the workers' compensation processes are complex. This is another reason that worried me about it. Although it may seem a little self-serving, if it makes things simpler for the employees, then fine. I discussed you with my dad for that reason. It was my way of saying thank you for his assistance during my fever. All I could do was shrug her words off. It's a pretty heavy method of saying thank you, but if that's how she feels, then that makes me happy. I told the CEO that I wanted to work here, even though I'm a little afraid that she might find out about any future problems. Results that are mediocre will not do. I'll put in even more effort because of the people that supported me. 5 years have gone by since that decision. I'm a 40-year-old middle-aged factory manager now. In these 5 years, the dilapidated plant underwent a number of modifications, and it now employs more people in a cleaner atmosphere. Costs increased, but output doubled. The plant turnaround was successful. Thank goodness. It wasn't just my work. I also appreciate Joe's and Mary's encouragement. Everybody works extremely hard when Mary says, "Let's do our best," because this plant is full of Mary's supporters. That is, myself included. She's still a little awkward after 5 years, falling frequently and smearing oil on her face. However, her optimism has been quite beneficial, and I value her as a person. To put it plainly, I've come to like her. Who could blame me, really? She has a wonderful smile, and in those moments, I have seen her underpants. What shade is it right now? Any man would be curious. She's on my mind all the time. I'm such a sap man. Not even once have I succeeded in asking her out on a date. But I'm not the same person today. After 5 years of feeling this way, I finally gathered up the nerve to ask her out to dinner today. Is this a date, though? Isn't that a date? At last, my point became clear, and not only did she get it, the entire workplace did as well. Is my transparency really that high? Well, it's evident if you continue to stare at her in that manner. I felt really ashamed. Without even waiting for our date, I told her the truth since I felt that there was nothing more awkward than this. I enjoy you. Are you going to be my girlfriend? She grinned and answered, yes, in response to what I said. It has always stuck in my memory how you protected me in your apartment when I was weak. Rather, you showed genuine concern. All right, seize the chance. Would most people consider that to be unsafe then? I was quite fortunate. Although I agree with her, it was disconcerting to hear it said aloud. That youthfulness can be blinding, but that's probably just my immaturity speaking. I've always believed that I had to be by her side to keep her safe. We dated and eventually got married after having that thought. Since our workplace was close-knit, everyone was happy to congratulate us. Mary is 28 years old and pregnant right now. I didn't like moving to Nebraska at first, but after a while, I can see it's not that horrible. I definitely owe Mary's optimistic attitude everything. Now that we're out of the rush of New York, we can spend more time together. Our family is expanding because we will be welcoming a new member next month. As I leave for work today, I'm looking forward to that. I really hope you liked this short story. We are really inspired to produce more stuff when you subscribe to our channel. Until the next video, see ya.